We are live.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? How's it going?
Welcome back to the live Q&A with Miles Franklin. I am Kevin Hauser, of course, here with your only Andy Schectman.
We prefer to call him Tattoo.
Been called worse.
Crazy times, y'all, and you know, Kevin and I live in Florida, in Delray Beach. You look at a map, we're down at the southeastern tip of the state, and looking at the trajectory of Hurricane Milton, hopefully, we, by all measurements, appear to be on the very, very, very outer bands of the hurricane. And of course, we want to say a prayer for everyone in harm's way in Tampa, St. Petersburg, and all of the cities along the way in the path of the hurricane. It's a concerning thing, but I wanted to bring something up corollary to precious metals, to preparing for a hurricane that's coming our way. You know, Jamie Dimon told us several months ago that a hurricane was coming, and he meant metaphorically, economically. And it's interesting because, as I mentioned, even yesterday, we were told, and the Weather Channel was telling us that we're out of the direct path, that we may experience 50, 60 mile an hour winds and heavy rain, but nothing like what the folks on the West Coast can expect to receive. And I want you to think about this in terms of preparedness for whatever is coming. And however in your mind's eye you think you need to prepare, keep this in mind, because it was very eye-opening for a guy that lived in Minnesota his whole life. The hurricanes that have happened over the last 3 years that I've been here, all of them were on the West Coast and had no chance of coming this way. And so, excuse me, I haven't experienced this in real time. But when we talk about preparedness, you know, it was very interesting to me. Yesterday after lunch, my wife and I thought we would head over to Costco and figuring we needed to hunker down for a few days. We ended up spending a lot of money, including $700 on alcohol. So, you know, there's a party at my house, of course, with our hurricane windows and our generator. We figured we would just hang out and play board games and deal with it, right? I got within a quarter mile of Costco and couldn't move, couldn't get into the parking lot. On every direction, there was a quarter mile long line of cars trying to get into Costco for a part of the state that is out of harm's way, more or less. Then I went to Publix, and if you've ever been to Florida, you know Publix grocery stores are on pretty much on every street corner.
Yeah.
And we walk in there, and literally all the water was gone. And I'm not just saying most of it, all of it. All of the milk was gone. All of the eggs were gone. The majority of the meat was gone. And I was really,
gas was gone.
Gas and the gone. Lines to get gasoline, you're waiting an hour to do so.
Yeah. Last stat I saw was 23% of all gas stations were out of gas in the state of Florida. Which
leads me to just bring up how important it is to prepare. Because what's coming our way, in my opinion, will happen in a manner that will catch so many people so off guard. And what I don't want it to do is catch you all off guard. You are the people who have taken the time to understand what's coming and to at least acknowledge the validity of, or the possibility that these things indeed could happen. And coming from a dude who lived in Minnesota his whole life, let me tell you the eye-opening experience of realizing that if you're late, and I always used to joke, I'd say, I'd rather be 6 months or 6 years early than 60 seconds late. And I can tell you in real time, it's true. So just a prayer and a shout out to all the people that are affected by the hurricane that already has happened, the folks in North Carolina.
And on the west coast of Florida.
And on the west coast of Florida.
The thing is, you certainly, this is really, I think, pretty much your first real storm. Yeah. I mean, I've been here for 20 plus years, and this is definitely not our first. It certainly, I'm sure, won't be our last. The thing that's important, and for the people watching and for everyone out there that are along the East Coast and other parts, just because you're not in the cone, don't take it lightly, because even the outer bands could be extremely, extremely dangerous. And as I told you, if it hits Tampa to Cat 5, there still is a likely chance that we can get sustained winds that could be north of 50, 80, even 100 miles an hour, as DeSantis said. So take take caution, as Andy said. It's very important. I mean, it's great. I'm going to be hunkering down at Andy's. This is a good chance I'm going to lose power. Andy, of course, has a generator, so we'll have a nice little party here. But the truth is, as fun as it will be to be around friends, it's not going to be fun for many. And I think that's the reality of it.
I'm most concerned about my dog.
Yep.
My dog's going to have a heart attack, and my dog can't stand thunder and lightning. I'll wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, and my dog is sitting on my head, literally. And I'll throw her off, and what the hell are you doing? And she'll jump right back up, and there's nothing going on. And about 8 minutes later, there's a wicked thunderstorm, and she senses it, hears it. I don't know what it is, but I have a feeling my dog is going to be more upset by what's coming than I will. But anyways, I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was a very apropos metaphor for what's coming. And I've talked a lot about where we are. You could argue that what we've seen over the last few years was the front edge of the hurricane. And now we're in the eye of the storm. And they say more people die in hurricanes coming out after it passes, thinking it's safe. The eye hole is 3 miles in this Hurricane Milton, which is evidently very small.
Tiny, 3.8 miles, yeah.
But they say you go out, you try to take your dog for a walk or whatnot, and the trailing edge comes and smacks you in the ass. And I just want people to understand, metaphorically, I think the trailing edge of the storm is indeed coming. We have the big BRICS meeting in 2 weeks and the election in 3.5. Time to get ready. Time to prepare.
I think that Hurricane Milton kind of hit the metals markets a day early today. We saw silver down at 4.8%. Gold was off about 1.5%. We closed down 3.5% and just under 1% on gold. What's your take? I mean, granted, it was because of the jobs report, which we talked about today.
I want to talk about the jobs report. Is just so fugazi. It's not even funny. I mean,
fugazi. I'm so glad that you're learning. I'm so glad
that's what Queens has rubbed off on me. He made me get a tattoo, and these things.
It's downhill from there ever since.
Yeah, I mean, look, in years past, when gold would get hit like this, when silver would get hit like this, it would then have its neck stepped upon and wouldn't come back. The resiliency that we see right now is it's the Chinese, it's the Russians, it's the Indians laughing that we're stupid enough to suppress the paper price of gold and silver, and they take it with a thank you, a subsidy. Thank you very much. And that's really what's different. The metals markets bounce back in ways that I am not accustomed to seeing in 3.5 decades in this industry. And that's really what's different, Kevin. I mean, it comes right back. So yeah, I don't get bummed out by that at all.
I see private uploads just says, aren't we expecting a pullback in metals after this huge run up opportunity to buy on sale? I mean, I think today was a pullback. I think today was the opportunity for you to buy certain things on sale. I know that we had a bunch of calls today. I know I did from clients that were, maybe sitting on the fence, and today was the day that they decided to jump in. Not only that, when we called the trading desk, things were a little off for me. I mean, I wasn't seeing the things that typically we could have bought, in volume. It's not there anymore. I mean, look at the kilos, look at the hundreds. They're just not available the way they once were.
Well, and I've been saying that for 6 months, that product has been flush, premiums have been low, and like that, it'll change. And I think it will change. And he's right. Our head trader says that getting bars like kilo bars, 100-ounce bars, has become very difficult. The 10th ounce eagles are gone probably till 2025. All the backdate sovereign coins are gone, and that's usually how it starts. It's a market that it doesn't take but a few very wealthy investors to literally destroy what is available. And when you head into the end of the year, it's a very precarious time in the respect that the mints are preparing for 2025. And with the holidays and the new year and the election, this is what I mean about going to Costco before the line is a quarter mile long. And I mean that sincerely, truthfully. But yeah, I wouldn't be bummed out by it at all, because every single pullback that we have seen over the last several months has been met with great buying across the globe. I would expect that to be the case here as well.
All right. Well, I know the last time we got a little sidetracked, so I want to make sure, again, it's live Q&A with Miles Franklin. So I want to get to a couple of the questions early on. This one comes from Diane. Hi again to the team. If possible, could platinum be discussed either tonight or on another program? investing in gold and silver is a no-brainer. However, looking through the products, I see platinum coins. I don't hear it come up much on news. I love platinum jewelry, just never thought about coins. What are the pros? What are the cons? Hoping that you guys stay safe on the East Coast.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for the question. Yeah, platinum to me represents a tertiary asset in my metals holdings. It's third, a distant third to gold and silver. I mean, the argument for owning it is valid. It's similar to the gold silver argument. It is distorted in its price in relation to gold, and it's many times more rare, more scarce. The supply is also deep within the heart of the BRICS. Most of it is mined in South Africa and in Russia. Its main use is in catalytics, mostly for diesel automobiles. But really, the mints, the U.S. mint, the Canadian mint, the Australian mint have done a woeful job in giving us product to sell. And the U.S. mint may make 35, 40, 50,000 coins compared to 1.5 million gold eagles. It's tough to get. There are high premiums, high spreads, not premiums, spreads between buy and sell. Look, when the world thinks of investing or protecting rather themselves with metals, I think they think to gold and silver, both mentioned in the Bible. And to my knowledge, I don't think platinum is. Gold was mentioned 300, 400, 500 times in the Bible, and silver a couple hundred times. It's wealth. So platinum to me is an investment, and using the logic of it being distorted in its relation to gold, yeah, it's an intriguing investment. But for my money right now, it's a distant third to gold and silver.
So it's funny that you say that, because yesterday, a client of mine, Wayne, if you're listening, this one's for you. He called me, said he and a friend were discussing palladium. And he said his friend told him that he should buy palladium. And I looked on our inventory, and oddly enough, we didn't have virtually any palladium left over. We had some palladium maples, which I know when I spoke to our desk, they were in the process of getting more, but there wasn't a whole lot of demand for quite a while, and which is why our desk didn't feel the need to go out and get a whole lot more. And as of late, and I don't know, did something happen as of late for the need for palladium?
The palladium, first of all, the maple leaf hasn't been made in several years.
Right.
They're the only country that's made a coin.
Right,
Everyone else makes bars.
Right.
Most of my career, palladium was a third the price of platinum. Palladium took off when it started with platinum was the catalytic metal for catalytic converters for all automobiles until somewhere in the early 2000s, when the price got so high in relation to palladium that the auto manufacturers retrofitted their assembly lines and replaced unleaded vehicle catalytics with palladium. And somewhere along the line, palladium went parabolic. And palladium had quite a run. It's come back quite a bit, but most of my career, palladium was $200, $300, $400. And again, you want to talk distant, that's a distant fourth. When you talk about spread, there are massive spreads, and it's because of something called the cost of carry. It's as if you and a friend go to a restaurant and sit at a table in a busy restaurant and have a cup of coffee and bullshit for 3 hours as the waiter or waitress gives you the stink eye because it's costing he or her money while you sit there and don't order anything. Well, when we stock a whole bunch of palladium that no one ever buys, really, we have very little demand for it. We used to, but not so much anymore. It sits there collecting nothing but dust, and therefore the dealers don't want it. So to me, again, palladium a distant fourth rather in my holdings. I think I might own 3 ounces total, and I've been accumulating metal for 35 years. So again, I think we missed the run on palladium. I wouldn't chase it. I think platinum is a better choice, but for my money, the value of a generation is in silver.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get to the next question. We have John wants to know the pros and cons, if we can talk a little bit about taxes relating to different holdings in precious metals when sold, trading physical for fiat. Are there different rules, say, for redemption of rounds, eagles, bars? So yeah, there's definitely a differential between some of these things, especially from our perspective.
Only from our perspective. Yeah. And that's the important part. You get a lot of people who hear things and they hear them incorrectly, thinking they don't have to report the sale of American Eagles, as an example.
The government wants if you make a profit, Our government wants a piece of it.
Yeah,
no matter what.
Uncle will be there to get his piece. There are certain things that trigger dealer reporting requirements in certain quantities on sellback. So let's start with the purchase. If you pay with a wire or a check or an e-check, there is no reporting ever in any quantity. The only reporting when you buy, and that would be the case no matter what you're buying, any retail capacity, any product from an automobile to golf clubs to gold. In the United States, if you pay with over $10,000 in green cash or multiple money orders under $10,000, which is considered a cash instrument, then a Form 8300 is filled out. But paying with a wire or a check or an ACH, there is no dealer reporting or consumer reporting on any level.
And that's a huge misnomer, by the way. How many calls do we get that say, I want to buy $9,995 worth of metal? And we know that they're trying to avoid the reporting, but there is no reporting. So
and I would think
that it's a misnomer.
And I would think that the government would be far more keen in looking at multiple order transactions of just under $10,000,
correct,
rather than one large transaction in a country where, you know, people making investments write very large checks and send very large wires. And there's nothing illegal about it. So there's no sense to hide it. But when you talk about selling, many, many years ago, and I don't remember the year, maybe the early 80s, a group called ICTA, the Industry Council for Tangible Assets, struck a deal with the IRS and basically laid down some fundamentals for what is reported. And they used to report certain items on the New York Stock Exchange. It would be reported in the Wall Street Journal. Krugerrands, gold, Maple Leafs gold, Mexican 50 gold pesos, gold bars, pre-65 silver, and silver bars. So those items trigger dealer reporting on sellback in certain quantities. Let's start with gold. If you sell me more than 24 Krugerrands in one transaction, and it's important to say one transaction, or Maple Leafs or Mexican 50 pesos, on the 25th ounce, we would need a 1099 or your social security number and file a 1099. In bar form, it's kilo. It's on the 30. It's just over 32.15 or
gold kilos. That
yes,
is.
if you sell 32.15 ounces or more in kilo bar form, or in bar form rather, on the 33rd ounce, we need your social security number, and that's it in the gold universe. That is it. Nothing else that you would ever sell back would trigger dealer reporting. But no matter what, it is your responsibility, a la the honor system, to do that reporting. You don't want to call a dealer and say, I have 500 Krugerrands and I ain't paying taxes, so I'm going to send you 24 at a time. That's not what you want to do. Actually, the dealer should, in that case, the onus would be on him to file a suspicious activity report form. We don't like to do that. And so we want to show you how to look over the line of legality, never step over it, but know where the line is. And when you talk about silver, when you sell back in bar form on the 1,000th ounce or greater, so you could sell any sovereign coin, no dealer reporting. You sell 1,000 silver rounds or 1,000 ounces in bar form, a dealer will need your social security number, and a 1099 is filed. And also in pre-65 silver on $1,000 face value, you sold 950 face, no reporting. So another thing you would never want to do is send someone 100 Krugerrands and say, please break that up into 4 transactions. You want to be mindful of the law, and you can exploit the law to your legal limit. There's nothing wrong with avoiding taxes. There's something wrong with evading them.
Correct.
And we will show you how to legally avoid them and to do it the right way without looking over your shoulder.
And I think one of the things that we tell everyone, it's always better to be proactive than reactive. So just know when you're buying, what you're buying, and the legalities of what it is that you are buying, so that when you sell, you don't potentially have this issue. So I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, you don't want to get a call at the end of the year asking for your social security number.
So Victor says, what metrics govern mining stock prices? Oh, that's a tough one.
Well, I mean, supply demand are the metrics. I mean, more than anything, it's, you know, I mean, a stock, any stock is
supply and demand.
It's supply and demand. I mean, of course, there are other, and again, when you talk about mining shares, you have different forms of mining shares. You have royalty stocks, which a company lends money to the or gives money to the miners to do their operation and makes a royalty. You have exploration stock, which is kind of a shot in the dark. You have juniors and you have majors that are producing. So it depends what kind of mining shares, but more than anything, it would be supply demand fundamentals. Of course, the price of gold and silver have a lot to do with it, as does the price of energy. And the higher the price of energy, the higher the cost of pulling the metal out of the ground, the worse the balance sheet looks. So it's a function of supply and demand, as any stock is. But you could also say that this is an area that has been underloved, if you will, and underinvested in. And from a standpoint of valuation, or a standpoint of finding value in an industry where gold has gone up tremendously, and the mining shares have not reacted. And so when you talk about where it should be, they should be much, much higher. And I'm an advocate of owning mining shares, but never confuse the two, right? A mining share portfolio and a physical portfolio, while related, let's call them cousins. You never want to confuse the two, because mining shares are a function of a stock market. And think of a stock market as the water on a bathtub, and the mining shares may be the sponge floating on the surface. If you pull the plug of the market, or of the bathtub, everything's going to sink. But you go back to the Great Depression, Homestake Mining was the #1 performing stock in the Great Depression. So there's room for mining shares. Just don't confuse them with the real thing.
Okay, we got what if you take out of country and sell overseas down the road? I'm gathering you something about physical. You take physical with you.
Well, the taxes would be the country in which you are a citizen of. So, in theory, you would be responsible for paying taxes in the United States if you are a U.S. citizen. Taking metal out of the country is an interesting one. And
okay, so here's a question that I would imagine you would know the answer to. You have a tube of gold eagles. Has face value of $50. Clearly, it's not worth $50 each. It's worth $1,000 face. Can you or can you not travel abroad with that?
Well, it depends.
Without reporting.
It depends where it's going, and my wife will cringe when you ask that question, because she knows I'm going to tell a story.
Which is why I asked.
Yeah. Well, and the story goes something like this. We have a Brinks facility in Montreal, and I have a large client there who I will visit when we do audits. And I went to visit him this one day, and he had asked me to bring 240 gold maple leafs back to the United States on his behalf and put them into our depository, as he planned on spending time in the United States. He's a very large client, so I acquiesced. I have what's called global entry, which means I've sat down with Homeland Security. They know who I am, and I get to go right to the front of the line at customs when I come back into the States. And so this story that I'm going to mention, I wouldn't try this in South America. I wouldn't try this in China. But in Western Europe, in Canada, and the United States, there are laws that govern this. And again, this was several years ago, so I am not sure if the laws have changed. You want to do your own due diligence, but we do have an article that we can send you that actually references the laws in the United States and Canada. Kevin, I can send that out if people ask. Yeah. But as far as the story, so I get to customs, I write on the form. This is before it was all computerized, about 5-6 years ago. And I say I have more than $10,000 on me because I have 240 gold maple leafs with our $50 face value coins. That's $12,000 face value. When you come into the United States, or when you leave Canada at any of the airports in Canada, you go through United States customs there at the airport. So the gentleman at the booth was wearing U.S. Homeland Security. And I said, he says, "What do you have, Mr. Schectman?" I said, "Well, I have 240 gold maple leafs. They're $50 face value coins. I'm declaring $12,000. And his eyes kind of spun. He said, "That's beyond my pay grade. You're going to need to go to further screening." So he shuts off the light of his booth, and he parades me down a hallway at a 45-degree angle into the bowels of the Montreal airport, where they do not hear you scream. And it was nothing but stainless steel and mirrors, a room about the size of a small gymnasium. And he said, "Don't touch anything. Someone will be with you shortly." And I turn around and he's gone. And I'm sitting alone in this room with—
Thinking that you were getting a full cavity search?
Pretty much. I mean, I had done something similar with my wife in Vancouver a year earlier, so I had an idea what to expect. And anyways, so I'm sitting there, and they're looking at me through these mirrored doors and windows and waiting for me to shove something down my pants. But I sat there patiently when Homeland Security supervisor comes out, and he comes up to a podium and about 50 feet in front of me and does not make eye contact. It's just he and I in this room. It's quiet. And he does one of these. You know, you could cut the tension with a knife. He could have won an Academy Award. Mr. Schectman, what do you have? Well, sir, like I told your associate, I have 240 gold maple leafs. They're $50 face value coins. I'm declaring $12,000. See? And I hand him one of the coins. And he says, interesting. I'm inclined to believe you. Let me ask you a few questions. How much is gold today? At the time, this could have been close to 10 years ago now that I think about it, because gold was $1,200 an ounce. I said, it's $1,200 an ounce. He says, well, by my math, isn't that somewhere around $300,000? Well, yes, sir. I said, it is. But you see, this is legal tender, and it's the face value amount that matters. Now, you could, in theory, sell it to someone for $50. It wouldn't be the smartest thing you ever did, but it is $50 Canadian legal tender. He says, oh, okay, I'm inclined to believe you. I'm going to go do a little research. I'm going to borrow your coin. In the meantime, you fill out this FinCEN form. Now, the FinCEN form is something you never want to see. It is an acronym, something to the extent of Financial Information Network Criminal Investigation. Yep. It's one of these deals you don't want your social security number to end up on this person's desk. How did you get here? How long have you been here? The money that you have, where did you get it? What is its denomination? Where do you live? What's your job? So all these things that I'm like, oh man, this isn't even my stuff. I didn't have to do this last time in Vancouver. Oh boy. So I fill out this 2-page form and I'm sitting there. It's now been about 45 minutes. Luckily, I went over 2.5 hours early, and he comes back and he says, I'll be damned, Mr. Schectman. Here's your coin back. You're right. It is legal tender. But I almost forgot. He said, do you have any money on you? And I said, yeah, $37 in my wallet. And he says, gives me one of these. He says, are you sure? And I'm like, my heart's pounding. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I might have some change in the bottom of my backpack. You're sure? Yes, sir, I am. He says, okay, give me the FinCEN form. He tears it up and he's like, you're free to go. Now, I said, listen, man, I've been sitting in here for almost an hour. Could you give me a little explanation? He chuckles. He said, I figured you'd ask. He said, you're entering the United States with 240 gold maple leafs with a face value of $12,000, correct? Yes, sir, that is correct. And to the best of your knowledge, you have $37 in your wallet and some change in the bottom of your backpack, correct? Yes, sir, correct. Well, lucky for you, today's conversion rate puts that 12,000 Canadian at $9,700. You're under the $10,000 threshold. You're free to go. So, needless to say, it was an experience that isn't for the faint of heart.
So, if it were Eagles, you would have had the FinCEN form then filled out because it was then U.S. dollars.
Correct.
But because it was maples and Canadian dollars.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. So you can travel with it, but you want to know the laws and the customs and the rules of where you're going to. For those people who go back and forth between the United States and Canada, we do have a report that one of our associates wrote. We do have it, and it will list the actual numbers of the law. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's the statutes. That pertain to physical gold and silver on your person as you go across borders. So an interesting experience, one that if you're going to do it, know where you're going. Call your airport first if you're concerned.
So pop and pop. Andy, when silver hits 50, how much silver will you buy from customs? That's a good question because people always ask me, well, if silver goes to 50, 75, how's it possible that you're able to buy it from everyone?
Because we can hedge our positions. So the coin shops can't do it. A lot of the local coin shops will call me and say, hey, I got a guy in my lobby who wants to sell 200 grand worth of silver. Can I sell it to you right away? Sure. Because we can hedge our position. And this is what would happen if there were no COMEX. If the COMEX blew up, no one could hedge their positions. When you hedge your position, in other words, if I'm buying 1,000 ounces at $50, I'll sell 1,000 ounces on paper so that I'm market neutral. One goes up, one goes down, commensurate. And so I'm never exposed to the fluctuations of the market. But for a lot of small dealers that don't hedge, for a lot of coin shops that don't hedge and are cash constrained, that's a valid point. That's when you'll want to deal with companies like ours who have the ability to, to buy millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of metal, hedge it so that we don't have the risk. And this is another reason why it makes sense to think of owning metal in 1 ounce form or less, even because of the utility that it gives you in an environment where metals may go higher than anyone thinks possible.
Which is, when the client called and asked me the same thing, I said, well, just think about it also from an equity point of view. When you think about Apple, you think about Amazon, Apple hit 100 and then it went 150. Well, who's buying it? Well, everyone that sells it, there's going to be a buyer for that same price. And if there's not a buyer, it'll drop in price until there is somebody
who's buying Bitcoin at 60,000, and I think that there will be a buyer, and that there are plenty of buyers at these levels. And of course, as the price goes higher, the public will have a harder and harder time transacting. But this is where the number of companies that will be able to buy will start to diminish, and it will be the large companies, predominantly online, that will have the wherewithal to do it. Yeah. But not everyone.
No, but I mean, I think that we both talked about it. I said, I think that $35 threshold right now is a very important level. Yesterday we just had gone through a 12-year high in silver. And I think at 35 is probably somewhat of an emotional level.
Well,
and I think from that point, at least in my opinion, not financial advice, but I think that we probably just go a clear shot, I think, with not a whole lot of resistance up to the $50 mark.
Well, that's good, because Max Slayton, the analyst for Citibank, says that the interest rate cuts should provide a bullish impulse for global activity and support silver consumption. We at Citibank see prices rising to over 35 over the next 3 months and 38 over the next 6 months. So, you got analysts talking about this, about silver going much higher. And of course, you have Russia now, which is, for the first time, you have a government actually talking about adding silver to their strategic stockpile. Whereas what we've seen is India accumulating 800 million ounces of silver quietly. China, the second largest producer, buying doré and concentrate from miners across Latin America quietly. It's now progressing to a point where these countries are openly telling us what they plan on doing. And it is the suppression of the paper markets that have the commercial banks shaking in their boots to naked short, to the degree of the London Metals Exchange, where they are trading upwards ends of 2.9 billion with a B ounces of silver per day, which is 3.5 times annual global mine supply. And 90+% of those trades are paper. When you have sovereign entities like India, Russia, and China who are shifting away from dollars and treasuries and no longer recycling excess into treasuries, but into commodities like gold and silver, it's a dangerous game to be playing. In fact, it's as dumb as a mud wall. And I would look for silver once it breaks through 32.50 and then 35 to have virtually no resistance all the way up to 50. And 50 shouldn't be the only place that we think it should be. If we take gold right now at 26.20 and divide by 42, which is pretty much the average price of the past 200 years, we get $62.38. So that's coming, and that would represent a far cry from where it should be, because it's coming out of the ground at a 7-to-1 ratio. You can take that number, divide by 7, you're pretty damn near $400. So
yeah,
the sky's the limit, really.
And if we go back and we look at when silver was $50 in the 80s, just based on inflation from 1980 until now, I mean, we're talking close to 120, 130 bucks.
It's the most undervalued asset on the planet. And this is what happens when you mess with Mother Nature and you suppress. In all of the years I've done this, the countries that are now draining the stockpile never were motivated, coordinated, sophisticated, and wealthy enough to stand for delivery. They are now. And instead they would buy treasuries and US-based assets. Now they're not. They don't want them. The danger in holding U.S. treasuries, the weaponization of the treasury market, the inflation, and the default risk would say to these countries, screw it. Let's listen to Zoltan Pozsar, this Bretton Woods 3, let's buy the real thing. And they are doing that. And that's really something that's very different. This is how they win the game. They don't need to fire missiles like we see firing all over the Middle East and the Ukraine. They can do so instead by draining the exchanges of our stupidity, by suppressing the paper price, all of it leveraged. They just stand for delivery, and that's how they win.
And remember, we're here, and we've been here for a while. We've seen silver at the single digits and the low double digits. There is still such a vast amount of people that don't have 1 ounce of silver. or have it but don't know they have it, but they're not silver stacker. They're not stackers. They're not holders of the metal. Those people, when it gets to 50, it's going to be, I believe, very much like a Bitcoin type, fiasco to buy silver.
Well,
and you're going to get those people. Somebody just said, well, who's going to buy silver at 50? Who's going to buy silver at 75? The amount of people that own silver and gold, for that matter, today is so minuscule in relation to our population that there's an enormous amount of people that will join in at a much higher rate. They don't want to, not be at the party. So
silver is one of the smallest markets on the planet. The amount of money that's out there tied up in equities and in bonds and in real estate will very quickly, if there's an event, a bail-in, a Bank of America bail-in, let's say, I've said publicly for months now that I think they'll be the ones to be sacrificed at the altar. Most people don't even know that a bail-in is something that is. They don't understand that bail-in legislation was written into law. Even equally as troubling, fewer people know that money market gating was also written into law during the Dodd-Frank Act.
You mention it. We have probably people on here that don't know what bail-ins are and that don't know, all
right, well,
we might as well explain it now that you do. Some people don't say,
well, that's fair.
Because they're going to be coming.
We go back to 2008. We bailed out all the banks and AIG and it's us, the taxpayer. And the Dodd-Frank Act that was written in 2009 said that won't ever happen again. Instead, you are an unsecured general creditor. Every time you make a deposit into the bank, it's really not a deposit. It's an unsecured loan to the bank. And for that, you are a creditor to the bank, i.e. last to be paid. And if indeed a bank fails, that will not be the burden of the taxpayer, but the burden of the depositors who will face that brunt. And they will end up anything over the FDIC limit is then bailed in. And in other words, it's gone. And it goes to bail in the indiscretions of the bank. And what's left would be shares of a defunct bank that you would get, I guess. If anything, the FDIC has up to 4 years to make you whole on the 250 or 500 on joint insurance. And FDIC is a scam. I mean, there's 130 or 40 billion in assets backing 18 trillion in deposits. It's 7 cents on the dollar, basically, is the amount of insurance that they really do have. But so if we go back to that time, the majority of the money market funds were in with Lehman Brothers, or a large portion of them. And when Lehman was about to fail, everyone tried to yank their money out, which is called breaking the buck. It turns the money market upside down, destabilizes the hell out of the economy, and you won't even get your money back out of the money market. So part of the Dodd-Frank legislation was money market gating. Now, if you look at the record amount, trillions of dollars in money markets right now, everyone's in money markets. They left the 0.5% or 1/4% they were getting in their savings account, and they're in a money market. That's what all of the tellers, put your money in the money market. You have all this money with us. You get the phone calls from the banks. Hey, I noticed you have 300,000 in your savings account. You should be in our, okay, everyone goes into the money market. Got daily liquidity until an event happens, and bang, they gate you. You ain't getting out, and you ride it down to the bottom. So you see something like that, where there's a collective awakening to the public. It doesn't even have to be at $50. We added 14,000 clients in 45 days when Silicon Valley Bank was bailed out. Now, I thought you said there's no bailouts, Andy. Well, there isn't. This was illegal. In fact, there was a congressional hearing where the senator from Oklahoma said, Madam Secretary, to Janet Yellen, you just bailed out Silicon and Signature. That's illegal. What am I missing? Well, Senator, we deemed it was too systemic to the system, and it was an uber majority vote of myself, the FOMC, which is the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and the president. And we had to bail them out. But this will be the burden of FDIC. It won't be the burden of the taxpayer. Yeah, right. But the point is, the gentleman says, well, okay, then if a regional bank fails in Oklahoma, will my constituents be made whole? No, sir. They will be bailed in. So the point of it is that these banks were bailed out illegally, setting the table. Now she's told us the next one's going to be bailed in. And the banks that have failed subsequently have all been gobbled up by JP Morgan or other larger regional banks. There will come a time, perhaps, when that doesn't happen. Why write it into law if you're not prepared to enact it or to act on it. Same thing with money market gating. And the amount of money in money markets right now has to be record, has to be, because everyone is chasing that yield and there's trillions of dollars in there. So you see that happen. I can tell you in a matter of moments, the collective fear would immediately, people would say, where the hell do we put our money? Where do you put it? Where can you put your money where you have ultimate control of it? An asset that is appreciating but has no counterparty liability. Correct. And that's gold and silver in your own possession. And they say there's no bull market like a metals bull market because, you can call any client back when silver's at $80 an ounce and the world's falling apart and say, would you like to go back to fiat and make that profit? They'll say, kiss my ass, lose my number, and hang up on you. I'm joking, but the point is this only reinforces the grip on their holdings and their mentality. So if we use the Costco analogy, get prepared and don't be late to this party, because indeed, I think you could see like that, a rush by the public, which right now represents less than 0.5%. So you make it at 5%, it's a tenfold increase in demand.
Correct. And that's, by the way, just what the financial advisors, anywhere between 5 and 10% is what they basically would tell you, at least on paper, what you should have as a portfolio allocation in metals. So I know that Lyle has this question, but the one that I wanted to get to that was up there before, because I think John had taken it away. Would you recommend swapping bars and non-U.S. sovereigns right now for junk silver if they are a majority of your stack? So bars and foreign sovereigns, would you swap them for constitutional?
I could make
junk?
the argument for it. You're going to lose a little bit of silver, probably not so much on the sovereigns. Be close.
Actually, right now, premiums on junk are very low right now historically.
So, you're not going to lose a ton, but there's something to be said for the utility that it gets. And I told the story many times about the ideas or the thoughts of having American-made coins, with all of the 11 states right now already passing legal tender laws, and up to 20 plus have it on their docket in the legislature to coins made by a mint like the U.S. Mint would be usable as legal tender for all debts, public and private, even as far as paying your property tax. Yes. Some of the legislation says any sovereign mint. Some of it says just U.S., but I think there is a lot to be said for owning U.S. coins, and I would do it with some of it.
Yeah, and when you own U.S. coins, you're given. You're good. No matter what the laws are, you're good with the U.S.
Yes.
It's more expensive.
Yeah.
So especially when you're talking about Eagles. But I think, like you said, I think a portion of it makes sense. That way, at least you're diversified, and you have some of the foreign sovereigns, you have some of the junk, and you still hold on to some of your bars.
Correct.
Just for the weight.
Correct.
So let's get to Lyle. Lyle's question.
I don't want to put my glasses on.
Okay.
So tell me what
we lost Lyle. So this is OC Stacker. We had a good question today on stacking surface channel. We ran out of time. Do you think we will ever see silver as a tier 1 asset?
No,
that's a good question.
I don't. There's not enough of it. There's far more gold across the globe, at least. No, I don't think you'll see silver as a tier 1 asset. There's only one other tier 1 asset in the world other than stocks, other than U.S. dollars and treasuries, at least as far as central banks are concerned, and that's gold. And U.S. treasuries and dollars have been the only since 1944. So no, I don't, but there is a 90% correlation in history, in movement, since the beginning of time between the two. And I would argue that silver has become a strategic metal, not an industrial metal as we're led to believe. It is so needed in so many areas, in green and digital and electronics and military applications, yet it is an asset that is depleting in nature. And when it's used in industry, it ends up in landfills or blown up in bombs or whatever it may be. The tiny, tiny amount is not, it's not economical to recycle it. So it's continuously decreasing above ground, as is its footprint below. Only about 28% of the silver mined last year came from companies that mine it. The rest don't have any economic justification for looking for it. They're byproduct. They're mining other metals and stumble across it. So yes, it's an asset that is increasing in demand, decreasing in supply. That's amazing for an investment, but in terms of it being tier 1, no, but it may be every bit as important as a tier 1. And that's why we see India, China, and Russia loading up on it to such a copious degree before there's a collective awakening that silver is very, very important, at least by the masses.
Great. So this article that I came across, I thought was interesting, and I wanted to get your take on it because I know that you always talk about the revaluation. And the title is, "Can the U.S. revalue Fort Knox gold?" Number one, what first came to my mind is, well, we don't even know what's in Fort Knox.
It hasn't been audited, I think, since '53, which is a little conspicuous.
It doesn't make any sense. So could revaluing Fort Knox gold be the United States' next big move in its economic standoff with China?
Yes.
This bold strategy promises potential financial gains, but carries significant risks of instability. What's your take
instability on of massive inflation?
Correct.
But not so much instability in terms of the whole system collapsing, default.
Well, it could, I guess you could say, it could offer the U.S. a lifeline now because of the financial burden that we have. But like you said, it's got its own inherent risks.
It does,
too, which might outweigh those gains. I don't know.
To my understanding, every $4,000 increase in the price of gold represents $1 trillion free and clear to the Treasury. Janet Yellen wouldn't even need congressional approval to do this. She would just tell Jerome, "Hey, buddy, jack up the price of gold." And I think they'll do that. Roosevelt did it in '33 and devalued the dollar by 40% after he confiscated the currency. Now, I'm not saying I think they're going to confiscate gold again. They did it in '33 because it was currency. But the head of the Dutch National Bank keeps talking about this. Let's revalue gold. And ironically, gold is held in every central bank balance sheet in an account called the gold revaluation account. It's valued at $35 in every country across the globe and $42.22 in the United States, and that's because we valued it last somewhere just after it was set free in the 70s, after we went off the gold standard or closed the gold window. But yeah, Cynthia Loomis, the senator from Wyoming, just brought this up at the Bitcoin meeting in Tennessee, where she said Trump got up on stage and said he wants to have a strategic Bitcoin account, and Loomis said, "Yeah, and I'm going to author a bill that authorizes the Federal Reserve to revalue the gold held on behalf of the Treasury." Look, we live in a world where people think that Bitcoin can easily be 100,000. Why couldn't gold be 100? How about 130? At 130,000, you've wiped out your debt in terms of balance sheet, asset to liability. Why not? Why couldn't it be? And the Treasury would just say, "We will buy any country's gold for $130,000. Isn't that what it is? If Shanghai is paying $4 an ounce premium right now to the Western silver price, isn't that the price? Anyone who can deliver it there." So my point is, yes, and I think it would be to the West's advantage to front run this, to front run the BRICS, who have already told us that their unit settlement token has been agreed upon in principle. We hear that from Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil and the head of the New Development Bank, who said in principle they've agreed to a settlement token called the unit, which will be 40% gold backed. And they're going to back it. It will be. There's no other reason the BIS would have classified gold as tier 1. And there's no other reason that the central banks are buying it at the level they are and repatriating it. Remember, the unit white paper says that the countries that make these unit tokens will be held within the borders of the countries that possess it. So they won't have to send it to a central authority, a Beijing, a Moscow, a Dubai. Instead, every country holds it, has it independently audited and held in escrow. So all of these countries like India, who's repatriated 100 metric tons, have held at the Bank of England since 1991 and bought more gold in the first 4 months of the year this year, 1.5 times what they bought all of last year, brought it all home along with about 40 other central banks from the Bank of England and the New York Fed, because gold will be part of a new system. Now, I think it would be in the best interest of the West to beat them to the punch. Even the IMF says that any CBDC that isn't pegged to something is fiat. What better way to maybe forestall this massive move away from the dollar into perhaps a BRIC settlement currency than to beat them to the punch and have a Western-backed system that is gold-backed using a marriage of blockchain technology and gold. And I think there is a very high probability that it happens, actually.
Well,
it would be in their best interest.
The funny thing in the article that I know that you'll get a kick out of is it says that the U.S. holds about 8,100 metric tons and China owns about 2,070.
Right, and that's a joke. China mines between 400 and 500 tons a year. China is the largest producer and accumulator of gold in the world. And most of my career, that number was stuck at about 1,200. And everyone said, you can't believe a word they say. they're supposed to report it to the IMF. Well, Saudi Arabia just got caught not reporting their 160 metric ton purchase to the IMF, but the Swiss import-export numbers flagged it. If China purchases the gold through a proxy bank, a commercial bank, on behalf of the PBOC, buying it from a refiner in South Africa or Switzerland, they're not going to report it. If they buy metal that's not 995 pure, remember, they're flying around and buying sludge, concentrate, and doré bars. That's not 999 pure. That's not reported. Or if the People's Liberation Army, who probably has more gold than the PBOC, they'll buy it. They don't have to report it. None of these countries want to report it any more than we want to report how much gold. And when Ron Paul says we need to audit Fort Knox, he gets voted down. Why? So this is a very hush-hush game. But I would also ask, where did Hussein's gold go? Where did Gaddafi's gold go? And where did the gold go that the Ukraine sold, 12 billion worth? Where did it go to fund the war? These are questions that I think the West doesn't want people to know. And but yeah, I think that it's in every country's vested interest to accumulate the hell out of it until it's revalued, and then show your hand. Until then, it doesn't do you any good.
All right, Alan's been waiting. This is a good one. So if the paper market is terminated by BRICS, what happens to Miles Franklin?
What happens to every if the paper market is terminated, I mean, you would hope that there would be something that would fill the vacuum very quickly. But what the paper market allows us to do is hedge our exposure, where I can have 80, 90, $100 million inventory in metal without risking it to the ups and downs, the whipsawing of the market. Put you out of business if you speculate.
And there's definitely a way that there's a happy medium. I mean, right now we have the leverage that people have is extraordinary. You know, as you always say, what you need, $7,000.
Yeah, it's about a 35 times leverage.
So, you know, there's definitely a happy
there's not
medium.
a big cost to
Right.
hedge a large position, is what he means. And you know, there are companies out there, some good ones that I know of. I know that SD Bullion will often talk publicly upon the fact that they don't hedge their portfolio. And in a rising market, that's great. In a market that's very volatile, and maybe they've changed their tune. I listened to an interview with Tyler Wall, I think his name. He said, yeah, we don't hedge. And I was shocked by that. We hedge every ounce, because the risk of being on the wrong side of you know, a market where in 2020 silver went from $20+ to 12, just like that. Now,
Can't hedge premium though.
You cannot hedge the premium, and that's the risk that us
Correct.
dealers face. And during the pandemic, it was a problem, because we would buy and hedge every ounce of silver that we had, but Silver Eagles were trading. We were buying them at a $9 and $10 premium from the distributors and from the public, higher even by the end, 13, 14. You can't hedge that.
And those came down quick.
Yes, and it can put people out of business.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, if the paper market disappeared, it would massively disrupt. It would be cash and carry. Pay me, I'll order it, and when it comes in, you'll get it. It would be very different than holding huge inventories with the ability to deliver quickly.
Here's kind of a good one that I think that we touch on. What do you think about the gold, silver leasing programs? It's been somewhat of a gray area.
It's a gray area. In fact, I've been approached by some of them to talk to them and listen to what they have to say. In essence, what you're doing is you're taking your coins and you're giving it to the leasing company, who then converts it into probably bars, or will sell it and use it to make a loan to a jewelry company or to some other institutional buyer or refiner or whatever it may be. But the ounces that you get back will be not the same ounces that you gave them. In other words, it would have to be in bar form, in whatever, big bar form. It's not going to be in the coins. And the risk is that you trade something that you love and you don't get it back. Look, I don't know enough to speak intelligently about it. I have never heard a bad word about the companies that are doing it. Monetary Metals is everywhere. I did an interview with Jason Cousins from Glint and the owner of Monetary Metals. It seemed like a nice enough guy. It's confusing, and I've been doing this for 35 years, and I was somewhat confused at the end of the interview, but I didn't come away thinking it was fraudulent. But I will tell you that, to me, relinquishing custody to make a little extra profit may be something you regret. For others, it could be, it could be very significant. You have a lot of gold that's sitting there accumulating nothing but dust. Yeah, making interest on it is significant, but just gold in and of itself has outperformed all traditional assets without any extra juice on it, and has performed 9.9% per year compounding for the last 25 years. So look, it's a novel idea and may work out very, very well. I would just be concerned that if you're trading items that you really love, like American Eagles or whatnot, you might want to really understand what it is that you get back and the possibilities of not getting that back. If you're sitting on a whole bunch of 1,000-ounce bars, yeah, it's intriguing. I mean, then it becomes intriguing. You're going to make interest on it, and that's probably what you're going to get back. So I don't want to disparage it, because it's not what I'm trying to do, just that it scares me to relinquish custody in an effort of making a return. To me, gold is not about a return on your money. It's return of it.
Agreed. We kind of went over this, Cosmic Jet Pilot, but if silver went to 600, how does selling work? Well, if silver went to 600, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to see silver go from 31 spot to 600 spot. So there's a reason it got there, and it's going to probably make its way from 31 to 35 to 50 to 75 to 150. So along that way, there's of course more interest in silver, and it gets to silver the same way as any stock gets to a certain level. It's supply driven. It's supply and demand. So the more people that want it, the higher they're going to bid it up. The less people that want it, they're going to push it down. So there is no ceiling on any metal. There is no ceiling on it. Certainly we know what the floor is, but I think that's the important thing to know.
I mean, look at again, Bitcoin. Why don't people say that about other assets? I think you should. What it will do, it will hurt the little guy. It'll hurt the little guy, the little coin shop that is, trying to stay in business, and someone comes in and wants to sell 100 ounces of silver at $600 a piece. You start to go bankrupt in terms of your bankroll pretty quick. But larger companies, like I said, that have the ability to hedge shouldn't be affected.
Les says, good evening, Andy. Does it matter if my gold or silver is Maple Leafs, Phils, or Brits?
No, and no, and no.
Yeah, listen, a lot of metal buying and which coins you buy is also personal preference. You might want to spend an extra couple of bucks to buy the Eagles. They are going to be more expensive. There are clients that only want US. Certainly, I know, following Andy's footsteps, I am a little bit of a gold snob. I love my Eagles and I love my Buffaloes, and I got that from you.
Yeah, no, I've told the story. I might as well tell it again real quick. Jim Sinclair, Mr. Gold in the 70s. I had dinner with him one night. He said to me, Andy, I'm Jewish. I said, well, geez, Jim, why are you telling me this? And by the way, Sinclair's not a Jewish name. He says, you're right. I went to an all Catholic school, an elementary school, and I was picked on for being Jewish. He said, but my last name is Seligman. And if you Google Murray Seligman, you'll see his father was a very famous Wall Street commodity trader who unwound the Hunt Brothers position. And he said, I'm actually related to the Goldmans and Goldman Sachs. And he said, I was told by one of my relatives that there would be two resets. The first reset, I would argue, Kevin, we're in the midst of it right now. And he said that would fail. That's man-made reset. The second reset would come, and it would be by Mother Nature. And when that happens, the government will confiscate everything that isn't American-made. Now, I could show you I have plenty of stuff that is not American. It hasn't persuaded me to the point of converting everything I own into American coins and gold and silver, but he believed it.
Doesn't stop you from asking me every time I come here, should you?
Yeah, I think about it. I've done a lot, but it's compelling. He believed it. He was a very smart man. And Bill Holter, my good buddy, who used to be his partner, has said this publicly, and he only accumulates American-made coins. So it's compelling. Do I think you need to rush out and switch your stuff to American? No, but I'm just simply saying, if I had my choice, American would be number one, and perhaps Canadian number two, just because of the recognition in North America.
So let's stick on that for a second, because I think a lot of people want to know, silver, gold is gold. What makes the American Silver Eagle, what makes the American Gold Eagle and the Gold Buffalo that much more expensive when it comes to premiums?
Demand. in North America. May not be the case in Canada or in the United States.
Well, Canada's going to be different because of the tax.
Right,
but a little different.
But I mean, in other parts of the world, it may not be the same. It's the demand in the U.S., and the U.S. Mint has been the model of inefficiency. I urge everyone to listen to Bix Weir's interview, 3-part interview with Jack Sermon, the gentleman who has run the Silver Eagle program since its inception. I almost fell off my raft when I was listening to it in the pool last year, preparing for a presentation. And he said, listen, I'm 70-ish years old and I've been doing this forever and I'm pissed off. He says, I was told by my superiors, well, who would his superior be? It'd be the head of the Treasury, which would be Janet Yellen, in essence, to only produce as many Silver Eagles over the last couple of years. This was last year, so this was in the middle of the super high premiums. He said, I was told to produce only as many Silver Eagles, the smallest amount I could without creating a massive backlash. And when he said that, I almost fell off the raft, because the mint by law is supposed to make as many Silver Eagles as humanly possible, as many as demanded by the public. Right. So there was no question. He said, and the authorized participants, the authorized dealers came to us halfway through the year and said, we'll take 36 million more, and we only gave them 12. So they knew what they were doing, and maybe they're stockpiling. Maybe they understand that silver is strategic, and we better start, because we've squandered all of our strategic stockpile. We don't have any anymore. So, I mean, they have to go into the open market to buy silver to make the Eagles. So maybe that's what it was. It didn't make sense. I will tell you, it's worth listening to, where he admits this and said he was told not to make as many as were demanded. They've been inefficient. That's the bottom line. But for my money, I prefer them over the other 5 sovereign mints.
Well, I think that now, especially when you're talking about premium, the disparity between Eagles and the other sovereign mints have gotten a lot smaller.
It's smaller.
I mean, before, when Eagles were trading at a $12 premium and some of the other sovereigns were at an $8 premium, I could see that, the understanding, because for every 1,000 ounces, it's $4,000. You're talking about almost another 120 ounces that you could be putting in your pocket or stacking. Now that, we're talking about $5 thereabout, versus that low $3, whatever the number is, again, it all depends. Some people just want the bars. They want to go 10-ounce bars, kilo bars, 100-ounce bars, cheapest premium, most amount of weight, and that's that. It's just a lot of the time we say what you gain in savings, you might lose in flexibility.
Right.
So, it's one of those things that you have to weigh one for the other.
Yeah. No, I mean, an ounce is an ounce is an ounce. That's the bottom line. But factor in all of these states passing legal tender laws, there's something to be said for American coins, and I will just stick with that. And really, if I had my druthers, I'd buy pre-33 gold, which has, again, come way down, and premiums are attractive. But
which is on my notes here, because I know that we've gotten so many questions on numismatics, and we've gotten questions on, what they were talking about, numismatic silvers, which I think they're talking really more so about silver proofs, which I think we covered last week. Be careful on the silver proofs.
Modern mint numismatics is lipstick on a pig.
Right.
Don't get suckered into it. Really don't. I mean, if you're going to buy numismatics, just let's call it pre-33 US and nothing else.
And if you have gotten sold on some of that modern day proof, give us a call. But like you said, stick with the numismatics. And I know that last week you wanted to cover the pre-33s. So I think now, I mean, I know it's 9:30, 9:35. I'm still good if you're good to kind of go over it. But I think that was one of the things that we wanted to cover tonight anyway.
I mean, if I had my choice, pre-33 gold coins are amazing. They're a piece of Americana. They're true American history. And, a lot of the coins that we see nowadays have been imported from the banks in Europe. A lot of the people in 33 knew it was coming. They were told, and they sent all their gold by steamship over to safe deposit boxes in Europe. And a lot of that has come back. And I'm very tight with a very large importer in the numismatic market. We have access to everything, all of the coins that you would want. Most of my career, that's all people bought. And that was before 2000 anyway, for sure. That's all people bought. The difference in price between a gold eagle and a $20 gold piece was minuscule. When Obama was about to take office, when it was preordained he was going to, the premiums went parabolic. And I called everyone I knew that I had sold gold to over the past 15 years, 20 years, and said, you got to let me come and buy this stuff back. There's 4 auction galleries dumber than a mud wall that are bidding enormous premiums. And I would go to someone's house who had 1,000 MS-62 St. Gaudens, and I'd bring them 1,700 gold eagles. That didn't happen ever in my career. It's never happened since. There are times when premiums are too high, like they were in 08 and 09. And there are times like now when the pendulum goes through overvaluation, back through fair value to undervaluation. And that's where we are now. And $20 and $10 gold pieces minted prior to 1933, in particular, the 20 Liberty in St. Gaudens and the $10 Liberty. To me, if I had my choice, it would be comprise the majority of the gold that I own. But you got to get a good price on it. You don't need to buy rare dates. You don't need to get deep into the numismatic rabbit hole, but just find that strike and balance between content and numismatic benefits, namely safety from confiscation, no dealer reporting, and better upside potential. We see that right now. So,
but how does somebody out there know what the right price is, what the right premium is? Because you know that there are certain dealers out there, they charge, above and beyond exorbitant prices for their numismatics.
Yeah,
and
call us.
And they'll tell you, well, they're highly collectible, rare year, 3,200 for the coin, 3,800 for the
If that's the case, you shouldn't be buying it unless you know. And you don't want to buy the rare stuff. That's the cherry on the sundae. In today's world where information is so readily available, it's pretty easy to make sure that you're getting the right price. But my goal would be to strike that balance to get you as much gold and silver as you possibly could get in Morgan silver dollars and pre-33 gold without sacrificing the the content, not paying too high of a premium, getting the diversity in date and in mint mark and in type without paying that added collector premium. We can do that.
Okay, so now I'm pretty sure this would be a good question that would be on a lot of people's minds. Andy Schectman's collection, which is quite vast. What is the 1 or 2 coins that stick out to you more than anything else?
Well, let's do.
Is it the one that you just bought? Is that one of them?
Oh, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I have two.
Yeah.
I have 2 gold
67?
coins. I have an MS-67 St. Gaudens that I love. I have a high relief St. Gaudens, which is a pretty rare coin. But that's about it in terms of rarity. I really have never gone deep into the rarity rabbit hole. I like quantity. You can buy uncirculated grades and whatnot, but a 67 grade St. Gaudens I'd never seen and never had, and so I bought one. The high relief St. Gaudens is the one collector piece that I own that's pretty rare, but everything else that I own would be vanilla ice cream. These are the cherries on top.
Is Andy Schectman's go-to a St. Gaudens over a 20 lib?
Not necessarily, no. In fact, I like the $20 Liberties better. They're older. The St. Gaudens is prettier.
And any thoughts on the Indians versus the libs?
The $10 Indian is a very cool coin.
Higher premium.
Much higher premium.
Yeah.
The $10 Liberty is a better value, and that's why I don't own.
Do you dip your toe in the water with the 2.5s and the 5s?
The
I saw a couple on your desk.
Yeah, I have all of them.
Now they're in my pocket. But
you might, that could possibly be true.
That they're in my pocket?
Well, I leave them alone with all my shit. It could be. That's a testament to you. But the 2.5 Indian is one of the only numismatic coins that you could easily obtain all of the dates. There's 15 or 16 or 17 dates. There's 2 that are expensive. You could have the entire collection, but you can go down this rabbit hole. You buy because it's an asset and you're trying to maximize your gold content, and very quickly it turns into a hobby and you go down that rabbit hole. And I've built portfolios over the years, going all the way back to 1850 20 lib, and almost every 20 lib in St. Gaudens, all the way up those that are available, or the rare ones being the Carson Cities. But yeah, it's a cool thing, and that's what I mean about it being a piece of Americana. But that's for an advanced collector, right? And you need to know what you're doing, and it isn't what I would recommend for people who are trying to get out of the way of what's coming, unless you know what you're doing and want to go down that road.
So right now, your recommendation, people to protect, preserve, grow modern day coins.
Yep. gold eagles, gold buffaloes, or MS63 or 4 and lower grades of $20 and $10 gold pieces that are commensurate in price with the modern day. It's about number of ounces that matter. That's really, in the end, what will be defined by, without being penny wise and pound foolish and buying the large pieces. It's being diversified and having ounces. It's the number of ounces more than anything else that matter.
Okay. Hypothetically speaking, $50,000, middle of the road, comfortable. How do you allocate 50,000 between silver and gold, given the current prices
right now?
How does Andy Schectman allocate it?
Right now, it's crazy, man, because, I remember when a tube of gold eagles was $6,000. Now it's closer to 60,000.
Yep.
So the value's in silver, playing the ratio between silver to gold. Buying silver, realizing 85-1 is an anomaly in every sense of the word, historically, price-wise, geologically, and then trading to gold when that anomaly corrects. The real value is there. It's hard for me to ignore gold, but the value is in silver. So 50 grand, I guess you could say 30 grand silver, 20 grand gold.
So
something
like
60,
40, 70, 30, something around there.
Yeah, I think, you don't want to count gold out. It is the only other tier one asset, but it is a generational value in silver.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get a couple of more questions. If you have them in, let's go. If not, then we're going to probably start to call it a night. Just to let you know, we do have our weekly specials this week. We have, I think it's on here, but I think that we're doing the silver Kangs at $299 over spot, and we have the backdate gold maples at $60 over spot. So the gold maples, I think, are definitely in somewhat of a limited supply. The Kangs, I think we have a bunch, but I think you did a big sale, so I'm not sure.
I think we have a bunch of them.
Yeah, I think we're still good on them, but they're good. So call up, speak to your brokers, find out what we got, and someone will be able to take care of you. Let's just get a couple more questions, and then we're good to go. Worked as a, you know who this is?
Pistol Pete.
I worked as a buyer for Schinders in Minneapolis.
I love Schinders, man. Yeah. I used to go there all the time. I used to take the 17C bus from St. Louis Park to Schinders and sneak into the girly magazine section when no one was looking behind the store.
Yeah, I still never been to Minnesota.
Yeah. Schinders was the place to go back in the day for comic books and baseball cards. In fact, I became very good friends with a guy named Mike Schinder. I miss you, Mike. I know you're not listening, but he was one of the relatives of Schinders. Yeah, baseball cards are I get more enjoyment out of baseball cards, Pistol Pete, than any asset I own, if you want to know the truth.
Great, Nate. Thank you, Andy. Richard Ansell is my personal broker.
I've known Richard since junior high school. A sweetheart teddy bear of a guy, one of the nicest people I've ever known.
Great guy. All right, let's see what else. We'll take one more. All right, let's just go with this one. Let's see. It says,
man, am I blind?
Get honest and tell the people about the 1033 Gold Confiscation Act. We are the collateral on the debt through birth certificate.
Yeah, that's way above my pay grade. I don't know the answer to that, and usually I don't get stumped.
Yeah.
But I don't know that one. I apologize. I know where he's going with that. That when you do your Social Security number, you sign yourself over. Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry, brother. I don't know the answer to that.
It might be better that we don't.
Probably
a little bit too scary.
Yeah, I don't want to get
scared. All right, let's get.
Had enough scare.
We have enough scare coming our way tomorrow night. So
I did get $700 worth of alcohol though, and
it doesn't Kamala give you that? Is it $705?
Not me. I may no. It's only if you're if you don't make enough money.
All right, maybe I'll get it.
Maybe.
Okay. Let's see. One more. That's the Schinders. Hold on.
Pistol Pete.
You know
like that? No, but I know Schinders well.
Okay. That's not what I thought they were. American Silver Buffaloes are a bargain. All right, Jason Pate only buys 33 gold. It's going.
Call us, fast. Jason. We'll make sure you get really, really good price on the pre-33, and I know it very, very well because that's all people bought for most of my career.
All right, I think that's it's like I'm not seeing anyone over there. Let me just take this off.
No, the rally's not over. Absolutely not. And don't be fooled by the pullback.
I don't even think we really got started yet. I think that's.
I mean, we could pull an all-nighter and get drunk and talk about the hurricane that's coming.
We could. I mean, we are.
I know
we will.
You don't drink though very much.
But I mean, well,
you should though. Things. While we're here, you should.
Yeah.
Why not?
I still have to work.
No, you don't. I know your boss.
My boss isn't. I have to be
She's
polite.
Listening.
I'm talking about you.
No.
Although, really, it's her.
Yeah. I let her
for
win.
all that you don't know.
She wins the battles.
Andy's wife, Jana, is the brains behind the operation.
Yeah.
Sweetheart.
She's the beauty.
And I know she's listening. Yeah. He's just on the puppet strings.
That's the illusion that I like to, I will say this.
Tucson Dawn, you know what?
Let me say
invited
this.
To the party.
I'm going to say this because I this is my one chance to get brownie points while we're locked in.
You don't say it enough. I know what you're going to say.
I would not be who I am without my wife. There's no question. The old saying, it's true. Behind every man is a good woman, and I would not be even remotely close to as successful or as well-rounded of a person if it weren't for my beautiful wife. I love her. I owe her a debt of gratitude.
And no joke, hands down, I've never met an individual who works harder, longer, and is relentless than Andy's wife.
Yeah.
And she is so devoted to making sure that every single solitary customer gets treated the way
she's been devoted to me that way too, and to my kids. So I got lucky. I kicked my coverage, and she was you can see over there. There's Kevin duck down. The Slipknot down in the bottom. She was the tour manager for Slipknot. So and for Marilyn Manson and the Backstreet Boys and the Eagles. So she's seen everything. So she's cool. She's cool. She's a good woman. She's a hard worker, and I love you, Jana.
Wow, that's wonderful. I think we should close on that. I mean, that was just beautiful.
Drop the mic.
Boom. Yeah. Mic drop.
It's a good time to be locked in the house with her for a few days. I definitely earned some brownie points. But I mean it.
And another 6 couples, by the way.
Oh man,
we don't know how many.
Yeah, everyone. I'm like the only one in the damn neighborhood who was wise enough to get a generator, man.
You're the one that was wise enough to buy the house.
But I got that one was broken. I bought a new one. But we live in a hurricane zone.
I know. I've been here 23 years, and I have good friends like you.
But we'll have some drinks.
Yes,
it'll be fun.
We will. Well, listen.
Maybe we'll jump back on in the midst of the hurricane.
If we can, we'll do a live.
Let's do it.
We'll do a live. If we have internet, and then we could show everyone what's going on out there, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah,
you can do it from our phones.
I think we should do that. We can have a hurricane live stream with a cocktail.
So
Kevin will go outside and see
he'll
how
throw me outside, right? So you know what? Because we'll have Jack make sure that we put something on Twitter. So if we can do that, if we do have internet, we'll do something live tomorrow or Thursday, depending on what we can do. But keep track of our Twitter account. Keep on keeping on. Thank you for coming on tonight. Much appreciated. Subscribe, smash the like button. And
I got some killer guests coming on, by the way. I'm on with Vince Lancy tomorrow. We got Johnny Bravo coming up. We've got Johnny Bravo. I'm very, very, very excited about that. Got David Morgan coming up. I've got a whole laundry list. And guess what? Tell them who we got coming up that you hooked us up with.
Ooh, for all those sports fans out there, Iron Eagle. Iron Eagle is going to be joining us next week.
He'll probably be the one announcing the Super Bowl, the World Series. I want this podcast
Final Four,
yeah. I want this podcast to not just be about economics and boring shit like that, but life. And I'm going to try and do that.
There goes Schectman down the lane.
Yes, exactly. And I want to have him do that for me.
Yeah.
But he's a very interesting dude, and his son Noah is also following his footsteps.
Unbelievable.
And doing the same thing. So I appreciate you all. This is a fun deal that we're trying to do, Kevin.
You want to give something away?
I don't know. What do you want to give away?
You're giving it away. I'm not giving it away. You're giving it away, but you want to give something away?
Okay.
All right, let's do a trivia. Let's see. All right. So, all right, here's a good one. What poisonous substance is used to dissolve gold and silver from the surrounding ore?
I know that. Yes, I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see who else does. First one. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got.
Yeah. First one. Do we get anyone yet?
No,
not
that's
yet.
That's what we give to the people we don't love. Arsenic.
Yeah.
Litecoin Lisa. Hi, Litecoin Lisa. Litecoin Lisa's awesome.
Not Mercury.
Naveed is killing me right now.
I see that. I mean, he must need you. Ex-girlfriend's venom.
Yeah, that will definitely dissolve.
No, we're getting closer.
Come on.
Come on, somebody answer it. Should I give a hint? Do we need hints yet? I can say.
No, that's not it.
Well,
there it is. Keith.
Yeah.
Kenneth.
Ken Patterson. Hold on. All right. Jana, if you're listening, Ken, can you please email info@milesfranklin.com and we will put your name, your address, and we will get you out something great. We will probably get you out. We have the Miles Franklin hats.
Yeah.
And
maybe a silver coin too. We'll throw coin. And everyone check out Litecoin Lisa. She's got a lot of great information on her website and her podcast. She's an awesome lady.
Yep. So everyone, once again, certainly appreciate you stopping by this evening, spending your pre-hurricane for those that are in Florida with us. Again, thoughts and prayers for all those that are in the state, and hunker up, stay safe, get your water, get your food, get your family, your friends, your dogs, your cats, and make sure that everybody's safe. And we will try and sign on tomorrow live for you to give you an update of what's going on here in South Florida.
Peace. Be well, everybody. God bless.
Take care all.